Welcome everyone to the webinar on the Whip and the Lash on Norfolk Island, first settlement 1788 to 1814. As holidaymakers step off the plane on Norfolk Island, they are welcomed by the locals with the saying of "Whataway," meaning "How are you?" Some may say "Whataway Yorley," which means "Hello everyone and welcome." You'll soon find yourselves immersed by the environment of the Norfolk Island pine trees and the living history taking you back to 1788. Participating in one of the numerous tours available on Norfolk Island, you'll soon discover that the cruel penal days of the island's second settlement, which is well known and documented, and quite visual down at Kingston. However, when it comes to the island's first settlement, all accept the impression of a settlement of free ex-convicts, marine settlers, all living in harmony together in paradise. Rarely mentioned is the crime and punishment endured by the convicts and others during the first settlement on Norfolk Island, 1788 to 1814. Norfolk Island was established as an outpost settlement of New South Wales in March 1788 and eventually became both an agricultural and penal settlement with a population consisting of convicts, ex-convicts, marines, marine settlers, ship's crew, New South Wales coal, free settlers, and also colonial sentences. Research has shown that nearly 70% of the First Fleet travelled to Norfolk Island at some time or another, with the Marines with their families, convicts, convict children, and also civil personnel. Ironic that the first crime that was punished on Norfolk Island was actually a Marine, being John Batchelor of the 55th Portsmouth Company, who arrived in New South Wales on the HMS Sirius. He received 12 lashes for quitting his work and 24 lashes for stealing the rum from the stalls. April 1788. The public display of his punishment was to hopefully deter the others from committing crimes. Batchelor drowned in June 1788, buried at Norfolk Flagstaff. This here is an aerial image of Kingston. I dare say today the sea would be quite high because we've got Cyclone Gabrielle passing by the island. By 1790, there were 71 offences committed by both Marines and convicts, all First Fleeters of course, with a massive amount of 3,220 lashes ordered from 56 matters. Batchelor's 24 lashes didn't stop people from stealing, and didn't stop people from stealing the grog either, because on the 20th of April 1788, Charles McCowan, who was a convict boy on the Alexander, and he was caught stealing the rum, and he got 36 lashes. The history of crime and punishment in early New South Wales does include Norfolk Island first settlement, because there was no criminal court on Norfolk Island until 1795-1796, because the charter had not come with the First Fleet. So King addressed many of the matters, but any capital crime, they had to be sent back to Port Jackson along with the witnesses and anyone who placed an affidavit and all of that. Then they had to come back to Norfolk Island. So it was an administration nightmare. But it includes the stories of theft, flogging, murder, mutiny. Yes, mutiny in 1789 on Norfolk Island. Drunkenness and rape, for which many forms of punishment were issued. These crimes were committed by convicts, settlers, Marines, as well as members of the New South Wales Corps, civil and naval personnel. So don't think it's just convicts who commit crimes. It was right across the board. But most of the crimes were misdemeanors. Where do you get all the information about the matters that happened, the criminal matters that happened on Norfolk Island? In the up to 1791, it's actually in the journals. So we're looking at the journals of King, and then from March 1790, we're also looking at the journal of Ralph Clark, who was on the island and also working as a magistrate. You just can't use one journal. You have to extract the information and data from both journals to get a complete list. Because King could mention it, Ralph Clark might mention it. So even though there was a crossover period, then we also have when King came back to Norfolk Island and in November 1791. And he was horrified by the stealing. He could not handle it. So what does one do? 800 lashes, thank you very much. Still didn't stop them. In the Colonial Office records, there is a list of crimes from November 1791 to July 1794. This list, you'll see that there was 800 lashes, over 300 lashes. Some were pardoned and retrieved for not receiving the large amount of lashes. Other punishments was to go back into public labour, to have their head shaved, to be sent over to Nepean or Phillip Island. It's mostly Nepean Island, because there were actually families living on Phillip Island and it was actually part of the settlement. So they sent them over to Nepean, where there was no water, it was just a big rock. It gives their name, it gives their punishment, it gives their crime, it gives their sentence, and also, if applicable, the number of lashes they received and the number of lashes they did not receive. I've put that document all into a database. So on the 18th of November 1791, you remember King had only just been on the island, returned to the island by 2 weeks, and he was over everyone stealing from the gardens, from each other. Robert Kingston, who later on married into the Joseph Beresford family, he was sentenced to 800 lashes and to have 5 pounds of flour only for a week. In other words, they cut short his rations. John Mills, on the same day, 800 lashes and to wear an iron collar on his legs. And the same with William Nair. We've got Henry Dutton, we've got James Lorry, William Winston. There's over 400 names on that one document. But you can see on the right-hand side that Robert Kingston was sentenced to 800 lashes but only received 200 lashes. And yes, there are repeat offenders. Getting 150 lashes did not deter people from stealing. But we can see what the type of matters were. And it's mostly robbing from gardens and stealing provisions. The document is very grainy. The online version in Trove, which I did run a webinar on how to find all these documents, is quite unreadable. So once again, this is why I tend to use the original. We've got to know, here it says to be sent back to Port Jackson. One convict was only on the island for 2 weeks, and King said, I don't want you here, and he sent him back to Port Jackson on the Kitty in March 1793. So the presentation of Norfolk Island First Settlement being an agricultural settlement, everyone living in harmony on paradise. There was even just remember, there is the other side to Norfolk Island's history of its first settlement, 1788 to 1814. There were executions on the beach after a mutiny in 1801, sorry. After 1794, we literally go into the mystery period. And apart from some criminal record matters being conducted on Norfolk Island and some of those information surviving, there's no list of criminal matters or misdemeanours on Norfolk Island. I dare say they still did happen. So this is an example from the criminal matters of 1796 and 97. They're also available online, and it tells you who the magistrates were, what the punishment was, and it goes right through witnesses and other information. But it's not a complete set. Please be aware, it is not a complete set. Joseph Was, and this is a pardon. There was even a criminal matter held in regards to HMS Sirius. William Drink's ancestors say that he burnt the ship down. Well, he didn't burn the ship down, he did start a fire. Him and a fellow convict swam out to the ship to try and help, get the provisions off the ship. So they threw some of the cattle overboard, and the cattle swam to shore. And then they threw over the luggage chests and others, and they floated out to sea. This map here is a superimposed first settlement buildings over the current Norfolk Island, Kingston. So you could say it's Sydney town versus Kingston, but there was a jail and people were actually put into jail. And then on the King's birthday, Philip Gidley King decided to pardon everyone for their crimes, and they were released from jail. So Norfolk Island does also have its dark past for 1788 to 1814. And as you can see here on this image, this is actually Kingston of today. We have the jetty down the bottom. We're going through the Kingston buildings of second settlement and also first settlement too. Second settlement. In this image, we've got the jail from second settlement up to Government House, which is ironic on the site of the third Government House on Norfolk Island in first settlement. We've got the golf course. We've got Emily Bay, also known as Turtle Bay Burial Ground, and one other cemetery in the background. It's just a short webinar today, just to make you aware that when you're doing your family history, also research or read about the location at the time. It doesn't have to be Norfolk Island. It could be Lash, it could be Goulburn, it could be anywhere. You just don't do your family history of birth, deaths and marriages. Do some background reading into the location that your people, your family members were at the time. Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.